All right, let's talk about the FHSA, the shiny new toy in Canada's collection of tax-efficient accounts. It's like if the TFSA and RRSP hooked up after too many margaritas at the CRA Christmas party, and 9 months later, boom, the FHSA was born. FHSA stands for First Home Savings Account, and as of 2025, the annual contribution limit is $8,000 with a lifetime max of $40,000. You can carry forward up to $8,000 in unused room from previous years, but only if you've actually opened the account. That's right, the CRA is like, we'll give you the room, but only if you show up. Here's why it's so good. You get a tax deduction on contributions like an RRSP, which means you pay less tax this year. Then the money grows tax-free like a TFSA. And when you use it to buy your first home, you withdraw it completely tax-free. That's the holy trinity. Tax break now, tax-free growth, tax-free withdrawal. This account is basically the unicorn of personal finance in Canada. The kicker, you can keep this thing open for 15 years after you open it, or until you turn 71, whichever comes first. So if you're in no rush to buy a house because prices look like a Jenga tower about to collapse, you can just let it grow. And here's where it gets spicy. If you don't use it to buy a home, you can roll the money into your RSP without using up your RSP contribution room. That's like finding out your leftovers magically refill your fridge. And when you roll it into an RSP, you keep the tax-deferred growth until you eventually withdraw it in retirement, at which point it's taxed like a normal RSP income. So should you use it if you don't plan to buy a house? Honestly, yes, if you can swing it. Even if you're committed to being a lifelong renter who laughs in the face of leaky roofs and property tax bills, it's still a free $40,000 worth of extra RSP room. Just know that once it's in the RSP, it's taxed on the way out. But that's future you's problem, and hopefully future you has a lower tax rate and a sweet life. One thing to watch out for, don't overfund it if you think you might need the cash for something else before buying a house, because taking money out for a non-home reason will hit you with taxes and potentially push you into a higher bracket. And no, I found a really good deal on a jet ski does not qualify as a first-time home purchase. But here's the first big con. If you roll it into your RSP and let it grow huge, every penny will be taxed as income when you take it out in retirement. That means you could be paying a higher rate than you would on capital gains in a non-registered account. In other words, if this thing takes off like Nvidia in 2017 and you never buy a home, the CRA will be waiting at the finish line to take their chunk at income tax rates, not the cheaper capital gains rates. This could be 2 times the tax hit. Other pros though, it's extra tax sheltered space. You can combine it with the RSP home buyers plan for even more house money. You get the deduction now, which means more money invested from day one. Hello, compounding. Other cons, you can't just withdraw early for non-home stuff without paying tax and losing the room forever. If you wait too long to open it, you miss out on building carry forward room. You can't use it for an investment property. It has to be your first home and you need to actually live there for at least a year. I'll tell you more about the definition of first home in a few minutes. Here's the thing. First-time homebuyer doesn't actually mean never owned a home in your life. In CRA speak, you're a first-time if you haven't owned a home you lived in during the last 4 calendar years. So if you sold your place 5 years ago or you owned an investment property but never lived in it, you might still qualify. Even if you inherited grandma's condo but rented it out and never set foot inside except to fix the leaky tap, you're still in the running. The exact test is between January 1st of the 4th year before the withdrawal and 31 days before the withdrawal, you did not own a home you occupied as your principal residence. Example, if it's 2025 and you want to use your FHSA, you can still qualify if you didn't live in a home you owned since January 1st, 2021. So yes, your past home ownership sins can be forgiven with a 4-year timeout. But remember, you have to plan to live in the home you're buying for at least 1 year after purchase. No buying it, painting it beige, and renting it out to your cousin right away. The strategy for most people, if you plan to buy a home in the next decade, max it out. If you don't plan to buy a home, max it out anyway and treat it as a bonus or RSP space. Just be aware that future withdrawals will be taxed as income, so you might want to balance with TFSA investing to keep some retirement money tax-free. Just don't forget, you have to actually open the account before the contribution room starts building. Otherwise, you're just leaving money on the table. And in a country where housing costs more than a kidney on the black market, you can't afford to do that. So I guess over the last few weeks, we've summarized FHSA, TFSA, and RRSP. Next week, I'm going to group them all together and hope to help you understand which stocks and ETFs you can put into each one. As I said, what's good for you might not be good for me, but it will be different for everyone. But I want to teach you how to figure that out for yourself. Like and subscribe, get these videos rolling.